The latest. Thank you for all love and support. I appreciate you all. There are people in this world that do not understand that what they value and cherish so much only applies to them because they are a kind of human beings different from others. They always make you look as if what they hold so high is the best, the standard. So for that matter, before you can be accepted, you must be like them. Or before you can work with them, you must be like them. And that is why they go around creating the division in the world, making other people to lose what they have, what they believe in, what they hold so high, what is dear to their heart, what makes them a people, in order for them to be like them, in order for them to be able to work with them. Because when you are not in that category, they see you to be less of a human. I am glad that this Chinese man said this to these people, that the West always talk about sheer value, but they forget that what applies to the Europeans is different from other people. Like we are Africans, we have our own values. How do we share the European values? Like the Chinese, how do they share the European values? We have to understand that everything that we believe in only lives within the continent in which we find ourselves. Even with that, like the Europeans, we have the Germans, we have the Italians, and whatever. So their values differ from each other. So if they believe in certain things, doesn't mean that the whole world must accept that.
What is your impression? How's the West reacting to this rise of China and to its will to play, apparently, a new role on the political scene?
I have my worries. And the reason is the following. The West have been strong for the last 400 years, 500 years, since Renaissance. And China has been waning for the last 200-300 years. And it is never easy to accept a new player. And today the West is very ideological. In particular, sorry, Thomas, Germany. I talked to journalists from Süddeutsche, Frankfurter Gemeinde, and the French, wherever. No other journalists are as ideological as that of the German newspaper that I know. I never talked to Der Spiegel, Peter. Maybe you're better.
No, not at all.
But whatever it is, you know, let me tell you this. I'll answer it this way. I was in Frankfurt. I was in Hamburg one time, and Angela Merkel was speaking, and 4 or 5 times in her speech, she said, "Shared value." Shared value. Helmut Schmidt was sitting on stage with her. I was sitting in the first few rows. I raised my hand to ask a question when it's Q&A time. Of course, they would not pick a Chinaman. So I was not picked. But let me tell you what my question was. And I told Helmut Schmidt later. I said, my question was, Chancellor Merkel, you keep using the word shared value. I live in China. Am I supposed to share your value? By saying so, now no one is suggesting that you should give up your value. By all means, keep your good value. But by saying so, you draw a line on the sand. I am on this side, you may be on the other side. If you don't share my value, you are not one of my own. Keep your value. But why say it? By saying it, you are dividing the world.
Later on, I think we will speak about the Chinese policy to impose values or to have a free discussion in Europe.
We never impose it outside of our border.
Yeah,
we do.
I don't know.
We do.
Yes.
The West do. Can you learn not to impose your value on other countries?
Perhaps they would like us to share it. Ronnie, talking about values, imposing values, let's look at the role that the US is currently playing, a country that you said
is among the most self-righteous countries in world history. At the same time, what we see in Washington right now is a pullback from Washington's international responsibility as the leader of the free world. You spend a lot of time in the US yourself. You're engaged in a lot of think tank activities in the US. What is your sense? Where does Washington stand these days? And also, how is that stature perceived in Beijing, for that matter?
First of all, let's not blame Donald Trump for everything. He should be blamed for many things, but not everything. Isolationism in America did not start with Donald Trump. In fact, I asked the following question. All of you know the origin of the United States, 1776 and so forth. Was America founded on internationalization, or was it founded on isolationism? Think about it. What's Monroe Doctrine? Right? 1820-some. All those tells us that America from day one is an isolationism country, not an internationalism country. The fact that you and I live our whole life in the post-World War II era, where America was originally reluctantly pulled into the international scene, does not mean that America historically was an internationalism country. In fact, roughly only 1/3 of its history, particularly after dragged into the Second World War, is the United States, an internationalist. So for America to go back to isolationism should not surprise any of us. And no other country that I can think of can survive as an isolated country. The United States is the only one. Somebody said, oh, maybe Russia can. I said, no, Russia cannot. Russia may not need to import anything, but it needs to export natural gas. So even Russia cannot be totally isolationist and survive. The only country that I can think of is the United States. 2 oceans on 2 sides, small Canada on the north, Mexico in the south, not a threat to Russia, to the United States economically or militarily. So America can easily go back to isolationism. And I do worry that America has that tendency always. And so let's not be too surprised if America moved toward isolationism. I don't like it. But what can I do? And I do fear that America, especially now with Trump in the White House, may be moving the country further in isolationism, which I don't think is necessarily good for the world.
And that means that China has to take on more responsibility, fill that vacuum.
Well, China never want to be number one because China always was number one for 3,000 years. Then the last 200 years become number nothing. A couple thousand British soldiers took over China. In Shanghai, where my mother grew up, in Shanghai, in the parks, there's a sign that says, no dogs and Chinese. This is in your home. What would you like, Britta? You go home, in your bedroom, there's a sign that says, no dogs and Britta. That's exactly what the colonialists did to China. And so, China has this terrible history of the last couple hundred years of under oppression by the West. 22,000 soldiers in 1900, 8 nations defeated the whole of China, from Europeans mostly, except the United States. So China is today just want to be back to the global scene as a responsible and respected member of the international community. How much responsibility you want them to take? It depends. So far, they are the most business-oriented country that I know. They try to keep their hand off all the politics and so forth. Middle East, they try to get out of it. They don't want to touch it, right? Do you want China to take more responsibility? If you do, then let me assure you, somebody will say, see, China is overextended itself and exerting its influence around the world. So the Chinese say, to hell with it. No win situation, we just do what we want to do.
Those who are visiting China these days and even if they can't read Mandarin, they have to consider that there are a lot of books and written works on the end of the West. Would you subscribe to this theory? Are we already living in a kind of post-Western order?
Not at all. You cannot prevent somebody from being foolish, especially on the internet. You have foolish people in this country. China has tons of it, just that they have many times more people.
We're not a system yet.
Well, Ronnie, if I may, since we're talking about, China's rise or China having risen to great power status, here's a question that I received from the audience, and let me read it to you. Given China's treatment of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and dissidents, do you sympathize with those who fear the rise of China?
Because of historic reasons, the northwestern part of China, Xinjiang province in particular, has always been a mixed area between the Uyghurs and the Han people, which comprise 92% of the Chinese population. It has always been a mixed area. My sister-in-law come from there. And so, but mind you about something, and that is Xinjiang province, together with Tibet, has always been contested by the Russians, the British, the French, even the Americans, and certainly the Germans as well. The great game of the 19th century. Why is that the case? Well, everybody is after something, either defensively or offensively. There's a lot of natural resources in that part of the world. Most of the big rivers in India start from Tibet. And so the great game, now, you say, why are the Chinese, in Xinjiang province and Tibet province? Because they have been that way for the last couple of thousands of years. Rather, my question is, why were the Germans there in the 19th century? Why were the French, the British, the Americans, the Russians, why are they there? So, such is human affairs. China is no saint. Neither Americans, nor British, or French, nor German, sorry. Nobody is a saint. Everybody is after his own interest.
This is what has been the problem of the West and America. And that is why they go around imposing their way of life and things that go contrary to the African on us. Telling us, if you don't accept these sanctions, if you don't accept that we are going to do this, making everybody to be like them. Forcing us to accept things that we don't even want. And they do it through the system called democracy and through the weak leaders that they impose on us. I decided to share this because I've seen that this is something that goes to the African. We have to hold on to our values. We need to be the kind of people that we are. People do not regard the African because of all these things. These people do not want to see the rise of anybody. So they will go any length to fight us, just like we are seeing in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and all the leaders who rose up to fight for Africa, what they have done to them. They can never stop because they are always scared of other people rising. They have to always be at the top to control every other person in this world. This has been their narrative. So China rising is a problem to them. Russia rising is a problem to them. Africans rising to claim what belongs to them is a problem to them. Everybody must be at their mercy. Like the Brazilian president said, there is no emperor in this world. It's a free world. You can only be whoever you are within the space that you are operating and not trying to impose it on other people. Africa, we don't depend on you for anything. We have our own resources. Yet these people still want to sit down to determine the fate of our resources. We should suffer. We should not benefit from the things that we have on our own soil. Everything must be for them. And this is what Africa will need to rise and fight against. If we don't fight, like Captain Ibrahim Traore said, we will not get what we are looking for. China is not where it is today by always sitting down to be accepting commands from these people. China worked so hard to get to the top. So if Africa we want to get to this place, we also need to rise up to work for it. We need to start defending and protecting the leaders that are doing everything possible in their power to get us where we are going to. We need to rise up. We need to unite. Unity is the only thing that will get us where we want to be. Chinese are united. Africans division. This is what these people are using to always win over us because we love them so much. We cherish everything about them and we believe that they are the standard people. And that is the reason to which today you find the African throwing everything that makes us Africans, claiming they are primitive, to adapt these things. We are being colonized in the modern way without us knowing that we are colonized. We need to rise up. We need to fight for our own values because that is what makes us a people. And you can never be respected in this world if you do not know who you are. Your value is your identity. We need to come together and protect what makes us a people. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make African great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. And in China,